2, 1.
Welcome back. We're here for an episode of Address It. We are here with KerryJo. KerryJo is running for school board at large, correct?
Correct.
What does that mean? Tell us what that means. We need a...
That means that I have the whole Minneapolis district.
Okay. But the school board position, though, how does that work? How do you get into that position? What does that position mean?
Well, it means a lot to me personally. And what it means is that you have all the districts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so that's north, northeast, south, southwest. And it works by people's votes. So it goes by people's votes, going out and knocking doors and talking to people and letting them know what your stance is on and what your platform is on certain issues, and hoping that that they agree with that and vote for you.
So, I mean, as far as, like, how does it go? Like, the school board, what is their power? Or what is their, what are they responsible for? I should say that.
Oh, yeah. So I'm glad you asked that, because a lot of people forget that it's the community that chooses the school board members, and the school board members govern the superintendent, and then the superintendent manages everything underneath that. Right? And they govern policies. And so that's the school board is, a representative of the people.
Do they do, like, the hiring and firing and stuff of employees?
No, but they can create policies which can contribute to what that looks like and how that can happen.
But it's a board, though, right? Mm-hmm. So how many people make up the board?
Right now, it's 9 people, and then student representatives.
How many seats are open?
At this point, there are 3 open seats in District 1, District 3, and District 5, and then 2 at-large seats, so 5 altogether.
So are you going for one, or does one fit for all? Like, what?
I'm going for one of the at-large seats.
At large. So you're going for, it has 2 open seats, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. How many people
are running for that?
Yeah.
4 at the time. 4 right now.
Okay. So how does that process work? So you have to advance, though, right?
I did. Mm-hmm. We went through the primaries, and I was able to advance to the generals.
And that's just that's September voting, or
the November voting, November 8th.
No, I mean what was the voting?
The primary, the September voting. Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, I just want to know how'd you get into this? Like, being a politician is not always the funnest thing ever. How did you get into this?
Right. Okay. It was the August voting. I just remember that. And being a politician, it's not fun at all. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather say a frienditition. I'm not very good at being a politician, and I'm only doing it because you get so mad that you want to see things go right. And so I jumped into this in 2010 when they were trying to close North High School. So me and 800 people were outside of the building when it was over Northeast, trying to save North High School, and we did. And then it was about me and 400 people were meeting at the church every weekend, and they said that was too many to work with. And so then it was about 100 of us meeting at North, and they said that was too many to work with. They wanted to whittle it down to 12 people. And so then we had, people brought forward speeches, and 12 people were picked, and I wasn't one of them. But only luckily 13 people wanted to go forward. And so a man by the name of Scott Rudd was like, you guys just let KerryJo go with. What's 13? We'll just do 13. Because I was shy. I wasn't used to talking in front of people, but I was really mad at how they had devastated North High School and gutted it, and how many students were there. And
what was that about? Why did they want to close it?
I really think we just graduated too many bright young people. It scared some people. That's what I think.
Is why they wanted to close it?
Well, I can't think of any other reason than that. I mean, we had Sumatech, we had the music program, right? We had
I mean,
the trades program. I mean, we had all of those programs in there when Camilla and I went to school, and in Makram and Sharon. When all of us went to school, we had all of those programs there, and for all of them to just go away, just like that, it's just beyond imagining the reason why. And part of it is because I think that there are plans in place to do things with, because they shut down one of the feeder schools. They shut down Franklin, and when they shut down Franklin was full.
Around 2010, you saying? Mm-hmm. Okay.
No, right before 2010.
Okay.
And when they shut down Franklin was full. And they used those kids and divided them, and a lot of them ended up going to Northeast Middle, right? And so we have to take a look at what that was about. And so then that left fewer kids to go to North. And so those numbers started to dwindle, but that school was full, and that was feeding just fine. And they had great programs at Franklin as well. And so I wasn't quite here at that time. I was in California at the time that happened, but in talking to educators who were there in the time, and I talked to Miss Osuji, who was running Sumatech when I got back, and getting a lot of details about what went on. It was very suspicious about how they were handling those schools.
Is this the first position you ran for?
This will be the second time I'm running.
For the same position?
I ran for District 2, which is North Minneapolis, and I was in the North District 2 board member from 2016 to 2020.
So besides that, have you had any other positions?
And then I ran again, and I lost to Sharon Elamine, which was all right. It was nice to take, a little bit of a break, and be able to.
So you were. I'm saying, have you ever been in a position before already? Political position? No?
No, I'm an organizer. Okay. I choose really to work on the outside and to talk to people and explain why things are important, and not be in this position. But then when it comes to kids, I don't trust other people to make the right decisions at this time concerning Minneapolis, concerning our kids. I think it's really important that we push forward and we have programs that are there for our children. We don't have any Afrocentric schools, and we're 63% black, right? If we have a lot of students that are black on the north side, then why don't we have an Afrocentric school? We used to have one. We've got Hmong programs, we've got Latina programs, right? And we have Heritage, which is mainly Somali. So why don't we have any Afrocentric programs? That's something that, we have to bring up and make sure that our kids are getting okay. Why are our kids getting different math programs? Why are our children getting different reading programs?
So I was going to ask you, what do you think has to be changed immediately? Like, what's not working now and needs immediate attention?
Balanced literature. We have to go back to structured literature, which is using phonics, hardcore phonics, and structured phonics.
Explain that to me a little bit more. Like,
when you break the word down and you sound the word out, and you break it down and then you put it back together. We've gotten away from doing that. And so they want the kids to sight read and memorize the words and sight words. And when you're reading, they tell the children, if you don't know the word, just skip that word and keep going. Or guess what the word is and keep on going. And if you're reading a book and you have to guess what 3 to 5 words are on a page, you're really not reading a book. You're not really absorbing all that it has to give you because you're guessing too much, and that's not helping our kids learn how to read. And if you're guessing 3 to 5 words on a book, you're going to lose interest.
So, who's that on? Is that on? Who's responsible for that?
The district and the board. If the board chooses it, or they choose
the curriculum.
If they choose people who are choosing the curriculum, The district.
So basically, the teachers they need to teach things in more depth. You would say? Is that what you're saying? Or?
The teachers are giving it to teach. They don't. They don't have any say. They are told, okay, this is what you teach, and this is how you teach it.
Okay.
That's how it's given. And so, they can put a little leeway into it to make it more fun, or, to make it, more structured. They try to fill in gaps if there's gaps in materials, but that's how they do it. In new math, our children are learning new math, and parents don't know new math. We shouldn't be learning new math. We should be learning either traditional math or Singapore math. But why are we learning new math? You take it home, parents can't help you with new math, because they didn't do new math. And when you go to
new math, like what? What is new math?
New math is like they want you to put things in columns, like you're working off of an abacus.
Okay.
The thought is nice, however, it's a lot for students. And when you take it home, parents can't help, because parents didn't get that kind of math. And so there's a big detachment there as to how much they can get help with math, and parents can't help. And so I think that's another reason why kids fall behind in math, because parents can't help if they're doing that type of math, if they're doing new math. And so we have to go back to traditional math or Singapore math. And you'll see in the district, like there are schools that are doing Singapore math, and then there are some schools that are doing new math. And we just need to cut out the new math. And
I'm already confused, because I thought it was just X's and stuff, the confusing thing.
No, there's different styles of teaching, and we just have to make sure that we're sticking with what is good and what is right and what has been shown to be proven, and move forward with that. Because testing and trying all these things out and wasting money on program after program is not serving our children, and it's wasting money.
So, do you think anything else is wrong with the curriculum? Like, do you think they need to add subjects to school? Or
They really do, but again, they need to add subjects like civics. Our children completely need to learn civics. I think it is a disservice and a disgrace to take civics out of public schools, because our children need to know how the world works and how they can work in it and how they can change it. Right now, a lot of people are turned off from Republicans and Democrats. They're like, I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote.
Right.
And that hurts. That hurts my feelings, because as an organizer, when I fight, I like to fight from a Democratic platform. It's easier to fight from a Democratic platform. And I know people will say, well, why? What have the Democrats done for us? And truly, I do think that their platform is better than a Republican. It's easier to work from. Like all of our Democrats right now in Minneapolis are pushing to fully fund public schools, where all of the Republicans are pushing to not fully fund public schools. And if we could fully fund public schools, Minneapolis public schools wouldn't start off negative, like $35 million to large amounts of negative millions of dollars every year. We could maybe cover that and start off positive, in a positive light, and not have to stress everyone out and maybe add new programming.
So who makes those decisions, though? Like when money is being cut, or when you say the North Side they'll be the first ones to lose on a situation like that. Who makes that decision?
So they're going to go by like how full the schools are, right? So the lines that they cut are unfair, because we have a lot of lines that are coming into North Minneapolis and taking our children and putting them elsewhere.
Okay.
So our schools aren't being served because our children are being taken out of North Minneapolis and serving other parts of the district. And they've been doing that for years. And they've even taken monies to bus our children all the way across town. And it's nice to integrate schools, but I also believe that we should have great programming in our backyards, in our own backyards, and not have to be bused to somebody's backyard for the programming. Because when you look at that, not only, are we looking at, programming in the schools and what that looks like, parks also look at school attendance numbers, as far as their funding for parks. And so it affects a lot all around it. all around as to what the schools
So
are
what is
doing.
the pushback on it though? It's just like, what's the pushback? Why is it a big deal? Why is it not easy to just give more money for a school that needs more money? Is what I'm saying.
Because there's only so much money given from the state legislature to the schools for funding. And they split it up per student, per pupil.
So it basically will be taken away from somewhere else that they're saying is necessary. If they was to give more money to North Side schools or
No, we're in a surplus right now. We have a $9.25 billion surplus. They could be giving money back they could be giving money to every single district in Minnesota. I mean,
and that's what I'm asking. So that's what I'm saying. What's the pushback if they have it?
Republicans, which is why I like to work from a Democratic platform.
Okay.
Which is why I have the DFL endorsement, and if you don't care about voting or either way, I say vote Democrat, and please help me move forward in fully funding public schools.
Tell us about the DFL. What is that?
The DFL, the Democratic Farmer Labor Party, put together by a black woman, Nellie Stone Johnson, which is why we have her school over north. And she was a farmer, a black farmer. Her parents were farmers in the South here in Minnesota. In the area where Lakeville is around now, she helped put the Democratic and the Farmer Labor Party together. And it's just a group of folks who are working together, working people.
How do you get the DFL endorsement?
You go to the DFL, and there's people who in different precincts and different wards, they have these, you go to your precinct meetings and you ask to be a delegate or an alternate. The delegates are the ones who will get to vote. Alternates are nice to be an alternate because if a delegate doesn't make it, they will then pull up alternates. And then they will vote to, for if you're in a district, then your district will vote for you. The district delegates will vote for you. And if you're citywide, then all the delegates who come from the city will vote for you.
So I mean, why is it important though? Why is that a big deal?
Because you're getting everybody represented from the whole city to vote for you.
Okay.
So people have to vote for you from Northeast. People have to vote for you from Southwest and North.
Okay, so on the ballot it will say, would it read that?
On the ballot, it will not say DFL because it's a bipartisan position. But I'll believe it's a bipartisan position really when those Republicans vote to fully fund public schools.
What makes you the best candidate? It's 2 seats and we said it's about 4 people running. What makes you the best candidate for the position?
I have experience, 1, and 2, I've grown up in Minneapolis, and I've lived northeast, I've lived over south, and I've owned 2 homes over north, and I live over north right now. And so I know the different communities, and I've known what we've had before. And so I'm going to expect nothing less than excellence. And knowing what that looks like, and I'll let you know, I am a very broad thinker. The CDD, for example, that wasn't my idea. That was actually Jim S. Staples' idea. He's a broad thinker. But I did bring it back, and it was only supposed to be at North. And then to show equity, that would have shown equity just to have it at North. But then you have other board members who don't believe in equity, and a movement of equality, they went and split it up and thought that moving around and forcing students to go someplace else would be a better alternative. And as you can see, it wasn't. We had students leave. We have had people move out of Minneapolis. You just can't force people. You have to build the program and let them come. And to be honest, I was really upset over that. I was really, really upset over that. Just because, as far as programming is concerned, they haven't shown their due to North Minneapolis for a long time. They've shown their dues in capital improvements because you can take the numbers and add them up and show them. And I did that in my first 4 months when I was on the board. And so we've gotten over $160 million in improvements.
What years was that when you was on the board?
16 to 20.
Okay.
And they're still doing some of the things, like they just finished up the Henry Field, and that was still on my list, right?
What's some of the things the board is a board, so it's not individual accomplishments, correct?
Correct, but they did make like a list of things to do and platforms and how they were going to fix things, and they did attend to a lot of things in North Minneapolis first, just because I showed the inconsistencies with the other districts.
And then you didn't run again you ran again the next time. Mm-hmm. You didn't win that time. Mm-hmm. And then you're running again. Mm-hmm. What's the motivation behind that? Like, I
feel like they are seriously hurting our children. And there's just something in me that rears up and says, no, you're not going to do that. And
they're hurting our children from an educational standpoint,
yeah.
You're saying? Okay.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
They definitely are. And I feel like they've been doing that for a while. And, and it's programming. And it's our policies. And we have to change our policies. We have to change our programming. We have to change how things are done. And we have to make our policies more culturally relevant as well. And we have to, and then they want to blame teachers and do other things. But check this out. So if we don't have any people in the hallways, the ESPs go out into the hallways. And so the teachers are in the classrooms alone. And we have about 25 kids in a classroom, right? And so then they have to do the whole classroom by themselves. And we are still in a bullying type of era. And so they don't catch everything. And if they catch a lot, they don't turn everything in, which I really want to change. Because I do really want to get rid of bullying in school. The fighting is out of control. And so we need to get people to be in the halls so we can bring our ESPs back into the classrooms to be with our teachers, because that's where they're supposed to be anyway, helping the students, helping the teachers.
You said bring them from in the halls into the classroom? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what do you mean, like the behavior teachers or what?
No. They supervise the teachers. And they help and do one-on-ones with the students.
They have just people in that specific position? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So they can do one-on-ones, because not every child learns the same either. They might learn differently, and ESPs go and they help them learn and break it down for them during whether it's reading, helping them with words, math, whatever it is. And so we need to bring our ESPs back into the classroom so our kids don't miss any steps.
So what about the safety in public schools? Mm-hmm. How do you feel about, does that need change, or just how do you feel regarding, there's been stories, guns getting into schools, mm-hmm. Just out and around schools, just recently, Richfield, just incidents, Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that, and what would be your approach to that?
I would like to see a lot of policies change about what that looks like inside the schools. Again, the bullying really has to stop, and you need people inside of the school to have that happen, and we need to have conversations with our students about what that looks like, and we have to have conversations about what that looks like with our parents as well, and our guardians. And it's hard sometimes because some of the guardians feel the same way students do. But we have to get a little bit more strict with what's going on, because it has to stop somewhere. And I would like to see the students respect the school once they cross that line and know that they're in school, and whether they're in there to learn, and they're in there to have, a social life and do other things, but they're not in there to plan an attack on somebody. They're not in there to do this piece. Because if they are, then maybe that's not the school for them.
But what do you suggest that they change to make it a safer environment?
We have to have these conversations first, right? Because first of all, we had these conversations where there were no suspensions, right? So students were doing everything and not getting suspended. And once they found out they weren't getting suspended, they did it. And then even kids who usually weren't doing it saw that they weren't getting suspended, so they tried it. You know, I mean,
That was a policy, no suspensions? Mm-hmm. And that's within who?
That was, I want to say what, 2014?
So is it still in place or?
No.
No, okay.
We have a racial justice movement now, but they can get suspended. But the thing is that we have to get tight as a district all around in how we serve our students, and it's not tight yet. And so serving our students has to be the number one priority, and it doesn't look like that yet. And
would you say they need law enforcement in the schools or metal detectors or any like?
No.
No. Some people have suggested. Some people want both ways. You know, more law enforcement presence, and some people say we don't need any law enforcement, but there is an issue. So.
I know there is an issue, and I don't know, when we made that vote, that was a hard vote. I know, because first, I know Director Caprini and I, we made an amendment, to keep our SROs over north, just because, we have
SROs?
Yeah, our student resource officers. Okay. Just because we know that we have fights going on between the highs and the lows. You have to stay on top of what's going on in your district as well. And so,
fights between the highs and the lows in school.
In school.
So you know this to be an issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it goes all the way down to elementary, because as you to move up, and some of them is to incorporate more family members into it. So we've got family members who are in elementary school, right? Yeah. So it's going all the way back to elementary school. So we have to have these long conversations. We got to look at it wholly. We got to look at the family wholly. And so, we wanted to keep ours. And plus, we had OA, Coach Adams, who is like the most exemplary SRO. I mean, my gosh, give me 12 of him and I'm fine, And I remember when we had the conversation, I asked him if he would train, the SROs and MPS, and I knew he didn't want to do it. And then I made an amendment by myself.
Why not though? Why would he not want to train?
I guess it just wasn't his thing. He didn't want to. So, and then I made an amendment all by myself, and I was the only yes. And
so in a recent school board meeting, you mentioned like school closures. Talked about that. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, when they did the lines, when they voted yes to the CDD, what it did to some schools, it cut their school population.
What is the CDD? Just so
thank you.
Here, we need to know what's going on.
Comprehensive district design.
Okay.
The comprehensive district design. And when they made that vote, parents were calling in left and right from all over, saying no, don't make that vote yet. Don't make the vote yet.
Don't make the vote to
go forward with it.
Okay.
And they felt like they wanted to talk about it some more. They didn't like the boundary lines. They didn't like the idea of their children moving around. There wasn't enough explanation of what was going to happen in their area. And they went through with it. And so the boundary lines, like, who do I want to put out? City View, right? City View had about 348 children at the time. Cut them right in half, right? So they were only going to have like 170 kids, maybe even less than that. So when you have that low that amount of children in your school, that's a red flag for closure, right? Because you have 150 kids, or less, and that was purposefully done. Like, you did that on purpose when you voted yes. And so, and there were a couple schools that they voted in half, and For the longest time, North didn't have its own, that's one of the things that the North High Community Coalition did was, give North an attendance zone and then also make it citywide so that it could get children. But for a while there, if you lived right across the street from North, you went to Henry. So there are things that you have to watch what they do with the boundary lines and the school attendance zones so they're not unfair to those specific schools. And when they did the boundary lines, like they had over like a school that had like 1,000 students over in South Minneapolis. It was just mayhem the way that they cut the lines. Madness and mayhem.
So you suggesting that more schools need to be closed? I'm trying to understand what I'm.
Oh no, I'm just saying that when they created the boundaries that they did, they made it easier
to close schools.
Correct.
Okay.
And the boundaries were very much unfair.
Okay. Because it's
to a lot of North Side schools.
Yeah. So when they make these type of decisions, who makes those and who approves those?
The board.
So when they making the boundaries, that's the school board. The school board has to push that through?
The school board has to push it through, and so when they created the boundaries, that's where people like the COO and Karen DeVette and Michael, what is his last name? It'll come to me in a moment, but yeah, there are people who were working on this plan for a long time, and they made these suggestions. And
so when you say these plans, though, like, who's working on them and who are, like, it seems like, who does it benefit to close schools within a district? Like, isn't that mean that's an issue, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're on top, that should be an issue for you. So I'm saying, who's doing this stuff is what I'm asking. Who's in these positions to allow this stuff to happen?
School board members and...
Because you said it's a plan that's been developing,
Oh, yeah. Well, we can go way back. To me, personally, like, there's been plans to do that for a long time. There's a whole charter school movement piece that we could get into that they go through the cities, like Chicago, right? Like Detroit, like Harlem, like New York, like Jersey, like, they've been going through a lot of cities that are primarily black and turning them around and segregating them, and then are going through them and gentrifying them. And here we are.
And I only ask I like to know, who do we need to go at? Who do we need to not vote for? Who do we need to, be upset with? Sometimes.
Well, I think that, we have to talk to people in the suburbs more, our family in the suburbs, because, first of all, when they got to about 10,000 units behind, where we were short for people living in Minneapolis, I think that was a big key. And then they've been building over south a lot, as you might have seen if you've been rolling over south. And they've been building over northeast, but they haven't been building over north. And that's because, they want to keep that as a more family, and they want to, just come here and they want to make downtown bigger.
They haven't been building schools and
No, they want to make downtown bigger. So, which the easiest way to make downtown bigger to them is to come through North Minneapolis. And so that's what their plan was, and that's been their plan for a while. And we were trying to tell people that in 2011 and 12. Yeah, 2011 and 12, and you might as well have just said, the sky is falling, and people were like, what happened? But here we are now, and we can see that this is the result of what happens.
How do you feel about gender in schools? So like gender neutral bathrooms, or I think the word is transgender in sports. How do you feel about that in public schooling?
I'm completely fine with that.
What I mean,
and I think that that's something that we need to have.
Why? Talk about that a little more.
Because we're changing as a society, and we're being more open. And if we're going to be more open and accepting, then we have to be more open and accepting and have the utilities to prove that we are. You can't say we're open accepting, but we're not going to have a bathroom for you.
Is there an age limit? Is that for elementary, middle school, high school, or is it a certain age when you should have certain exposure, or how do you feel about that?
I think when kids start noticing, so maybe middle school, when you look at it, because kids know right away. They know when they're very, very young. I have a nephew that was born a female who has been a boy for a long time now. And they know very young. And you don't want to break them down by saying, no, you're not, or push them when they're obviously happy to be who they are. Because there's enough outside in the world that will do that. And so I think it just depends on the person, but we should have gender-neutral bathrooms in every school, period, no matter what school it is, no matter, elementary, yes, have a gender-neutral bathroom.
What about
middle
sports and things like that? Do you think there's any advantages or disadvantages
to sports?
Yeah, to having transgenders in sports. Are there any advantages or disadvantages?
I think there's both.
So I'm saying, that's not an issue, or?
Yeah, I think that there's both advantages and disadvantages.
So it gets like washed out. Mm-hmm. So how does that work? Are transgenders allowed to play? They're allowed to play sports, or they're allowed to play with who they identify with?
I think so.
What about disabilities? A lot of concerns have been brought up about children with disabilities, them not getting enough, of the proper teachings or having enough access to what I want you to just talk to a little bit about that.
So for disabilities or special education?
Special education, I should say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, special education, yep, completely. We have a very large issue in Minneapolis. Now, we have gotten rid of folks who, at all different levels, who have had issues with children, but I think that Black children are highly over-identified in special education, as are Black teachers. I mean, a lot of the programs, like the Q programs that we had here in Minnesota, were to take teachers of Black teachers, teachers of color, and make them special education teachers. And so if you make a lot of Black special education teachers, kids are going to see Black teachers, and they're going to be like, oh, I want to be with that teacher. They're Black. How do I get over there? Oh, okay. And so we need to start moving, that around and taking our special education teachers and moving them over into regular school classes, teaching regular school subjects, and moving the special education piece. We have to start talking to our children, and I think we should re-identify our special education children, because I don't think all of our children belong in special education. And our children are very intelligent, and our children don't have access to a lot of programming. And so if our children had more programming, we could see where their talents lie. We don't get to ask them that question. Some of our children are bored, and they get in trouble a lot because they learn very quickly. We don't have anything. We have some AP classes, advanced placement classes, but we need to identify more. But we need to have more people then to work with those children. And again, we start off with a deficit every year. And our area, we have to start, asking our neighbors to put in money, to raise money for certain things, and asking our neighbors. And we have to have people come back to the schools and keep your eye on the schools in your neighborhood, and And just, be conscious that you have a school in your neighborhood, you should keep your eye on it. You can be conscious when you're 12. If you want to go to North when you're 12 and you want to speak Spanish, make sure that Spanish that Spanish program does not go away, because when people, I think that Black people trust too much. They trust too much, because if we take away a program, we're like, oh, well, okay, it must be for something, right? Whereas if you move something over on the south side, hundreds of people come running like, put that letter back, whatever it is. Like, put it back. We have to show up. We have to make sure that we're getting ours as well. And see if they're really replacing it with something. Ask what the timeline is. We spent $120 million on a program from 2011 to 2016. 2010 to 2016, $120 million. And it was for nothing.
Back to the special educations, what would you say to people that suggest that it shouldn't be separate, and that there are studies that show that
streamlining?
Huh?
I believe in streamlining. I do. I believe in streamlining. I mean, because before the whole separation piece, they were going through it anyway. Right? They were going through it, and they need help. I mean, and that's the whole thing. They just need help connecting dots. Now, if it's a behavioral issue, then it's a different thing, because we can't have people getting hurt all the time. Like right now, we have a student that, has definitely hurt quite a few people, and maybe should be in a different level setting. But if they are nonviolent, we should definitely be streamlining them as much as possible.
That's the term for it, streamlining? Mm-hmm. Okay. How come Minneapolis schools don't offer like winter sports, like don't offer, like as a, like in gym class and stuff like that? We talk about curriculum. We in Minnesota. Why don't they offer more, I don't know, snowboarding, skiing, or anything that has to do with being from Minnesota and being outside?
Mm-hmm. So that's part of the budget. That's part of the school budget. And if you don't have a lot of students in your school, then you don't have a lot of budget for extra things. So do you think it's better to have like 3 schools with 300 students each, or like 1 school with 900? That's what we have to like figure out. And then you have all those extra monies where you can have those extra programs and extra things. And
so that's what you would like, the latter. You would like 1 school with 900.
I don't like, well, I want to see what it looks like when we can have all of our students back.
Yeah.
First, like when we're not, sharing them with everyone. And I would like to also see what it looks like if we have some programming that is attractive to our African American families. And what it looks like when we know that when we cross the school threshold, that we respect the people in the buildings.
Programming like what?
Afrocentric teaching, maybe with Spanish, right? Because we have a lot of brothers and sisters in Cuba, and in the Dominican Republic, in Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Ensenada, where we could have conversations with them in Spanish, and they look like us. There is that piece that we're missing, and just knowing a second language is very, very important.
In 2018, you voted in favor of a resolution for schools to get money, basically. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about that? I want to know a little bit more about what was that resolution?
That resolution, they were really trying to take a leg out from underneath Henry at that time. And so, and that just was I just couldn't allow that to happen because we were at that point in time trying to stabilize North. And so we took a per pupil vote for money. So every pupil got the same amount of money in the schools, and that helped Henry keep its engineering program. Well, it helped him keep 5 teachers.
So you said it would take a leg up out they was trying to get rid of? They would have got rid of those 5 teachers?
Well,
possibly?
they would have, yeah, they would have lost 5 teachers.
Okay. But I mean, why did you feel like that was important?
Because I didn't need for them to start trying to destabilize Henry as well.
Okay. So even though you're trying to stabilize North, you don't.
Yeah, you're not going to destabilize Henry as well.
Okay. So would you make the same decision?
I might ask them to do it differently. Now that I've been in here longer, I might ask them to do the money as per school and not maybe per student. But the other thing is that you have to work with other people on the board, and the other people on the board didn't want to do it per school. They wanted to do it per student. And I might have organized a little bit more to try to see if I could push it to see if we could do it per school and not per student.
So the school board, you say it's a makeup when it's full, when the seats are all closed. How many is it on the school board?
9.
9? Okay. So right now how many is there right now?
9.
But the seat's open though, right?
Oh, 5 seats open.
Okay.
And then every year we get a new representative, student representatives.
Okay. And how was that determined, the student representative?
They write a report and they get chosen by the superintendent.
Okay. And it's from any Minneapolis school? What is it usually, a upperclassman or what?
It varies. It's been a little bit of all.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, is it hard to come to a decision on when you got a board like that? I mean, I know sometimes you might feel strongly and then other people don't. Like, what's that like?
No, I just vote the way. I mean, it's been 8-1 before. I don't mind being the only vote at all. If that's the way I'm supposed to vote, that's quite all right with me.
I just want to know, like, how does that? And I'm just so uninformed when it comes to like the processing, But like, how does a policy so who makes up a policy?
So there are policies that were there before that were made up.
Like if it's a new policy to be voted on, like let's just say in the future, like who would make that policy up?
So there's policies that come, a new policy could be brought up by the board. It could be brought forward to the board by the community. It could be brought forward from the state, or it could be a federal policy. And some of our policies have to intermingle with state and federal policies as well, and so that might change a policy that we have.
And then they come and they put it on you guys' table, you guys being the school board. And then y'all vote on it. Okay. So I'm just trying to figure out for the people, why is it important to care about voting for school board? Like what is the point? If somebody's like, I don't need to vote for that. Like, why do I need to wake up and go vote for that? Right.
Well, we have this policy 1000, and it says is that that it's important that the community and the Minneapolis public schools have a two-way communication flow. And some people think that that's frivolous, and some people, like me, think that's important. And so, like, for a little while, we had a fight over, do we keep that policy or, just so that it's stated just that way, or are people just supposed to know, And for me, I wanted to keep that policy because it states, what it is. It's policy 1000, which means it's the first policy that you open up when you get to the community piece of policies. And I think it's very important for people to know exactly what it is, what they should be demanding. And so those kinds of policies that others might think frivolous, I think are very important for people to, to see and to know so that they can push forward and to know where they stand. Because they have to know that the schools belong to them. The schools belong to the community. They are the first stakeholders. Parents, students, community, those are the first stakeholders, period.
Tell us something interesting about you. Fun fact or something that's, people don't know.
I don't know. I'm the first of 4 to go through Sumatech. And I've got 2 sisters and a brother. And we used to be really poor. And we used to live in a 1-bedroom apartment at one point in time. And the apartment had 4 little slots in it. And we all would go into a slot. And we would sit in there, we would talk about our dream homes and what we had in our dream homes. And then as we got older, we started, talking about whose house is bigger. We played the whose house is bigger game. We're all Sumatech graduates. And my brother, he just beat me. He just finished his basement. But I think that, I'm very proud to have gotten a great education. And I think our children deserve the very same thing. And if they choose not to go to college, then they need to have the education to do whatever it is that they want to do. And I think it's very important for them to have that, that right, that knowledge to do that. And if we're not giving our children that knowledge, it really makes me mad. Because then I see somebody that we've let down. And I hate letting, like today, I hate letting people down. And I'll do the very best that I can to do what I can. My day job is I work in labor. Teachers National Black Caucus is the shirt I'm wearing. And I'm a lead organizer for the People of Color Union members, where we go to schools and we talk to students about jobs that you can get without getting a college degree. And postal workers, they make money. You can make bread at the Bimbo Bakery, and you can make money. They have got a great pension. And I talk to people about pensions and Social Security. We don't know if Social Security is always going to be there, but when you get older, you get Social Security and a pension, then you can go on vacation. You can, buy a house for your kids. You can help your grandkids do things. Like, I want to help people achieve wealth, and that begins with a good education.
But do you think it's a lot of unnecessary curriculum though, in schools, in the school system?
I think that we can do without testing. I think we over-test. I think we over-test, and I think we teach to the test. And I would like to see us get back into creative thinking a lot more, and critical thinking. I think that's very important for our students to have. Instead of teaching to the test, I'd like to see us do finances more, civics more. If we're going to spend time teaching the test, I'd rather see us focus on that.
What would you say to people that believe school is designed to make you become a worker?
At this point?
Yes.
Yeah, at this point.
But I'm saying, what would you say to people that feel like that? So basically, school is unnecessary. Like, if you don't want to work for anybody, I shouldn't go to school. Like,
oh, no,
what would you
no,
say
no.
to something like that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no. You have to decide what you want to do. And going to school helps you decide what you want to do, because then you get to try things out, which is why I said it's very important for us to give our children options.
Right.
I'm all over options.
Yeah.
And so when you get to try those options, you can actually secure what you want to do as you get older. I think school is very, very important. And also, you live in Minnesota. Minnesota's a paper state. you at least have to have that GED for Minnesota. They're a paper state, point blank. And so
A lot of times on applications, they don't even be asking for it.
they don't.
No.
Well, depends on some.
I mean, I don't know. The higher you get, I'm sure you need to,
Yeah.
But it's a lot of stuff, I got a bachelor's, I got a master's. Just because I said I did,
Right.
But yeah, if you wanted to lead the people off with any last remarks, what would you say to them?
I would say get involved with the schools. Like, don't forget where you came from, and visit and volunteer and become a part of it, because the kids right now, they need us more than ever. I mean, they're going through the pandemic piece. They're going through the violence that's coming out off of Trump. They're going through George Floyd and dealing with all that. They're dealing with a lot. And I think that they all need us, even the little ones, because they might not even know why, but they're definitely feeling something. And
How do you think kids were affected by the e-learning or online learning during the pandemic?
Yeah.
How has that affected or set people back?
Yeah, so, it set my son back, but not my daughter. My daughter ate it up, straight A's. Some kids excelled. Like, she really wants to do online school now. And my
Because
son...
they have that option, right?
Yeah.
To just, you don't have to go to school anymore.
We don't have the option at MPS yet. But she's fine with it. I don't think she'd stick with it because she did miss her friends.
Yeah.
But my son just hated it. He didn't have any of his friends, and he's a real social person, and so, that just wasn't his gig. So he didn't do very well, and a lot of boys actually didn't do very well, and the girls did better than the boys with online learning.
I didn't think about it like that. I do know a lot of boys that struggled a little bit with that. But no, I appreciate you coming. I know you, I know you made it. You didn't let me down, but you wouldn't have let me down.
I would not let you down.
I appreciate it.
Can I say just one more thing?
For sure.
Just get out and vote, and just move to the party that is easier for a lot of people to work off, like the $15 minimum wage. That came from Democrats working to get that done, and the time and a half, and vacations and all that, that came from mainly Democrats working to get that done. That came from labor, but mainly, the Democratic side of labor, moving that forward and pushing that forward, because it's just easier for us to push forward with things that are good for us from that platform. And even if that's not your platform, there isn't another one that's there yet. I mean, there's the independent. Everybody can do independent if you want to. But if the Green Party, that's another one. But if there's not one that you need, then we need to work with one, that we have. In Texas, they made La Raza. The Latinas down there, they made La Raza. And so they actually won with La Raza. And they made a third party. And but we haven't done that yet. So just get out and vote and find somebody that you like, somebody that can hold your values, somebody that is going to fight for what you want, somebody who's going to fight for what you want.
When is voting again?
It's going to be November 8th.
November 8th. Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up really quick.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you. I'm glad you could make it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem.